Am I being followed by the officers too? Am I doing something wrong?
I should go and, well, let me get something from her office. What is your name?
My name is Jason Garza.
Ada's going to go get some paper so she can take some notes.
Wonderful. And I've got plenty of papers myself. As a matter of fact, I brought a stack of paperwork, you know, when this first started and the Department of Public Health produced a bogus restraining order against me. That's one of the very first videos on YouTube. And maybe we can get these people in compliance to answer for that.
Hmm,
27th.
thank you.
No problem.
Can you spell your name for me?
Jason, Jason, Garza, Garza.
And do you want to give me your date of birth?
Not on video. I can give it to you later.
Okay.
I don't want any of my sensitive information out, you know.
Okay. All right. So, what is your complaint exactly?
Okay, what is your power and authorization if I give you a valid complaint to have it validly investigated and to bring up charges if I'm correct?
Well, it's sort of a catch-22 because this office will investigate complaints against the Department of Public Health. But I don't know what your complaint is.
Now, I'm confused. What do you mean by you'll investigate complaints against the Department of Public Health? And why am I being only told this years later? I mean, I did turn the Department of Public Health into licensing and certification, which told me they had no jurisdiction over it. I did ask who certified the patient health care and everything. The Department of Public Health told me a Miss Bender, who I wrote to, and told me that no, they did not certify, you know, health care and everything else. So I'm very confused as to what I'm even doing here if, like you said, you know, you don't have the capability to get me what I need.
Because
It's just another delay tactic, and I need my health care. That's why I continually come back, you know, throughout all the law-breaking activity that I've been subjected to.
What is your complaint, Mr. Garza?
I've been denied health care for years.
Okay, you've been denied health care.
Yes. As a matter of fact, recently, 4:30, 7:23, and 7:29, I went to the San Francisco emergency and was denied health care there.
Okay, so can you tell me specifically what happened on those dates?
I went in seeking emergency care and was denied.
Which dates?
4:30, 7:23, and 7:29, and the videos are on YouTube.
Okay, 4:30 last year?
Yes.
Okay, so 4:30, 14, a year ago about?
Correct.
Okay, and another date?
7:23.
7:23, 14.
Yes, and
Okay.
7:29.
And 7:29.
And I turned them into licensing and certification, which
Okay,
wrote me back.
You're moving too fast.
I'm sorry, this is my rate. I turned them into licensing and certification, which came back and told me my complaint was unsubstantiated, even though I turned videos in. Once again, to show how everything is rigged to fail.
Okay, where did you go for the health care that you were denied?
San Francisco General Emergency.
Okay.
And that, you know, and the reason I went for that health care is because, you know, I've been very ill, and the Department of Public Health has continually denied me health care. As a matter of fact, you know, a few years ago when I came to follow up on it and started the videos, they produced a bogus restraining order that the officers used against me to deny me entrance into the building. It's only recently that I've gotten entrance into the building because I was illegally arrested seeking health care here on 2/24 of this year.
Here being?
Here, downstairs.
In Tomadale?
No, here, downstairs. The video is on YouTube.
But there's no health care.
This is the Department of Public Health Care.
It's administrative.
That's right, and I've come to file a complaint about not receiving my health care and to find out how I can, and I've never been helped in that facility. As a matter of fact, I've been ignored in you know, the director's office. I've been escorted out by the sheriff, who's the lapdog for DPH. I've been, you know, my civil rights have been broken. My ADA rights have been broken. You know, I've asked for programmatic access, which is what I'm entitled to. You know, they quoted me HIPAA law as far as video recording, which doesn't apply. Nobody answers for their false accusations. You know, now I'm trying to press charges against the officers who, you know, falsely arrested me on 2/24, and on 2/18, I called for civil standby for here, the Department of Public Health, and the officer told the people down at police dispatch that I was code 800, which is slander, which, basically code 800 means that you're mentally incompetent because supposedly, these buildings are only the sole jurisdiction of the sheriff, and I've not given up my police and legal rights to step foot into this building to receive the services I'm entitled to. These are prepaid services. I'm disabled.
What services are you seeking today?
Health care, which I've been seeking for years.
And are you engaged with a primary care provider?
No. My last primary care provider was Mitchell Katz, the director of public health, until he abandoned me. And the reason he abandoned me is because I was suing the city because in 2001, I went to emergency, and he was my doctor, and I got denied emergency services in San Francisco General. I told my doctor and everyone else that I was going to take the city to court because they had broken the law and denied me emergency services. They all told me I wasn't an emergency. My doctor abandoned me. In 2003, when my case, CO23485PJH, got to federal court, the city got up and testified and had my case dismissed. 4 years later, through the Office of Inspector General, I have a settlement agreement, a signed confession in which the city admits having broken federal law. There's an admission of fault and guilt here, signed by the Office of Inspector General and, the city and county of San Francisco in 2007, 4 years later, and it still left its vindicated innocent victim for dead and still has not provided any health care afterwards. Here it is. You're welcome to look at it. Comments from compliance. Please, I'm waiting. Because, as far as compliance, there's been none. There's only been law-breaking activity. And I do want compliance. And damages.
You want to see a health care provider today?
Whenever it can be scheduled, to receive my health care. Remember, I'm disabled. These were prepaid services that I have been denied for the last 12 years. Prepaid, because I'm disabled.
And have you ever seen a primary care provider here?
No, because I've been told that I couldn't videotape the receipt of my own health care, which is a total lie because under ADA I can under programmatic access, given the fact that I have a settlement agreement in front of you, for which the city has already told me that I was wrong. And my disability is that I have what's known as an adjustment disorder. I'm a well-adjusted individual in a very maladjusted society, or I cannot adjust to disorder. So now that I've proven that there's nothing but disorder, I videotape.
What would you like us to do?
Set up an appointment for health care, primary, mental, all kinds of health care, and then another appointment with whomever is in charge, whether it's compliance or the Department of Public Health, to explain to me not only the bogus restraining order, why I was left for dead in 2007 after having signed a settlement agreement acknowledging that the city testified in federal court to further, pardon my French, screw me, and to go forward from there and have some accountability, which is what I have been seeking for years. Now, if you go to YouTube, under Jason Garza, there's over 700 videos showing you the methodology that's used to deny people their rights.
And do you know if you have Medicare, Medi-Cal, anything? Do you know?
I have Medicare Part A. I do not have Medicare Part B because I dropped Medicare Part B when they told me that I wasn't in emergency in 2001. When I went back with the signed confession, they told me I was still wrong. When I went to Medicare's quality management in Washington, D.C. to tell them that they were wrong so that they could fix it and not screw somebody else, I never received a response because the system is rigged. It is not I who am in the failure.
Are you, is anyone prescribing any medication for you now?
I have a medical marijuana prescription for anxiety and depression that Dr. Mitchell Katz prescribed for me, one of the very first ones, and so I have another doctor who's continued my prescription.
And is that through DPH or is
No,
that private?
of course not. DPH has done nothing but harm me and not been accountable.
Okay. And do you live in the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing has changed. Ever since Mitchell Katz was my doctor, I'm still at the same address. I'm still at everything else.
Okay. All right.
Yes, my confession, madam, is the only one of its kind that admits fault and guilt. Out of all the confessions at the Office of Inspector General. Yes, that's what those are. All the other confessions where there's no admission. Mine is the only one. And it's still continuing. I'm still not able to get emergency services or even my health care at the Department of Public Health. I can show you those videos on YouTube where I've come in and requested appointments and everything else and been taken downstairs and escorted out by the sheriff. I've been arrested by the sheriff. You know, I've never had my day in court. You know, all I am is victimized by a system that is set to fail.
And when you went to, okay, I'm trying to figure out what.
Can I have that back,
exactly
please?
to focus on.
Thank you, ma'am. I didn't mean to throw it at you. I just wanted to slide it down towards you.
Is your primary focus is to get
No, my primary focus is to get my health care, but to
Right.
also get accountability. I've also been told, for example, when I went down to San Francisco General by the sheriff's people, that it's against the law for me to videotape the receipt of my own health care. Surprisingly enough, on 430, 723, and 729, I sunshined San Francisco General, and they sent me the discs for all the, you know, the video cameras there. San Francisco sheriff told me that it was against HIPAA for me to video record, you know, the receipt of my health care, and yet here I've got from San Francisco General them video recording everyone. So maybe we should also go to the sheriff and ask him to arrest everybody at San Francisco General. I want to show the discrepancies, the deliberate harm, the mislead, but certainly never the help. Never the help. Never, for a second. Let me say it for a third time. Never the help, being dead right with a signed confession. I've never violated HIPAA law. I've had the law violated against me in every innumerable ways, including my ADA rights. Yes, I do want my health care, but I want accountability so that this doesn't happen to anyone else. And, you know, I want my damages. Also, because I was told that it was a HIPAA violation, there was an article here about, you know, the future of medicine. Telehealth visits allow UCSF patients to continue their care from home, which once again proves that telemedicine and video recording and videos is the wave of the future. And to say that I can't record my own health care, the receipt of my health care, when it's my health care, is a total farce, and it's not what HIPAA was written about. So yes, I would like people to be accountable for every mislead that they've given me about HIPAA under the color of authority, being the Sheriff's Department and everybody else, with the approval of the Department of Public Health, because I've said it to them and nobody stepped up. And now this article about telehealth, which is what I've said all along. You know, this thing is just rigged to high hell. So, when can I have my appointment to start getting my health care?
I am not able to answer that question.
So once again, I've come back to the Department of Public Health for another failure. Okay, because let's not forget that the last time this happened to me, I was told by Dr. Pine and the CIT officer that I would be receiving health care. That video is on YouTube. And I told them to their face that wouldn't happen because none of them would be accountable and responsible. Well, maybe I'm drawing the gauntlet here too. Let's see whether or not I get my health care from this diversion, because right now I consider it a diversion. You're telling me you can't give me an appointment for my health care?
I did not say that, Mr.
Okay, well then let me re-ask. Can I please have an appointment for my health care so that I can start to receive it?
I am not able to give you an appointment at this time. If you would like, what I can do is I can speak with one of the healthcare provider sites and ask them if they are in a position to give you an appointment, and I will then let you know what they have to say.
Okay, I would prefer for you to do that with Health Care Center number 1, to where I've been to seek my health care and been denied because I was videotaping it. So
Okay.
please remember Health Care number 1, and I will videotape the receipt of my health care on 17th Street, Castro. That's the Castro location.
Okay, it's Healthcare
Center number 1.
number 1, which is
Castro Mission?
Castro Mission? Okay.
Correct.
And when was the last time you were there?
You'd have to go back and look at the videos. I was illegally escorted out by the Sheriff's Department seeking my health care, and I was illegally told that I was violating HIPAA by recording. And when I pulled out the HIPAA law, which I have, naturally, let me say it again, naturally, let me say it for a third time, naturally they couldn't point out where I was wrong in HIPAA law, but they could, you know, under the color of authority, misdirect and not perform correctly.
So, can you give me a ballpark? Was this last week or a year ago or 5 years ago at Castro?
Oh, no, this was probably last year.
Okay, this was last year.
Did you see anyone? Did you see it?
No, I was escorted out, I told you.
Okay.
Just like when I went for emergency, I was never received a medical screening examination, which is required by law.
And the reason why you believe you were escorted out is because of what? Why do you think that the sheriffs escorted you out?
Well, let's see. I have a settlement agreement here from where they broke. You asked me a question. May I please be allowed to answer it? I have a settlement agreement here from where they've broken the law in the past and never been accountable. So the reason I was asked to be escorted out is because it's just a continuation. Next
If I'm
question.
allowed to ask, I would like to ask the question again. When you went to Castro Mission last year and you were escorted off the premises, why did they tell you then that you were being asked?
You would have to ask them. I can't speak for them.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will ask them.
Yes, and I have the videos. They're under Jason Garza on YouTube. You're welcome to see them.
And if you were given an appointment, what are you asking for?
What I've
Specifically?
been denied for the last 12
But I
years,
don't
my
know
health
what
care.
that is.
Well, maybe you need to speak to the Director of Public Health. They have all my records.
But in order for me to go to a specific site to try to get you an appointment, I need to know if I can.
In other
This is
words,
to help you.
to go to a specific site to get an appointment, you cannot talk to the Director of Public Health, who has all my records, so that you can expedite this. Is
No,
that
I
what you're
cannot.
saying?
No, I cannot.
Well, isn't that a wonderful way to run a business, folks?
Well,
It's not
it
my
may
problem,
be
madam.
right.
I would like to have, of course, not right has happened to me consistently. This is why I'm here, not only following up to get what I'm supposed to get, but to ask for an accounting. This will not be swept under the rug. Just because I get my health care doesn't mean I won't stop showing up every week to inquire about why I've been denied for years. Accountability.
Okay, so there are two things on the table that I understand. One, you would like an appointment,
Yes.
and two, you would like an accountability for what you believe has been denial of services in the past. Am I correct about that?
Well, I don't know about the particular word believe. I know for a fact that I have the YouTube videos that demonstrate and show that I've been denied illegally my health care. So, believe or know for a fact, I would have to, disagree. I know for a
That's
fact that I've been denied my health care.
That's okay, but there are two pieces that we're trying to get done. Am I correct?
No, there's going to be more after that. There's going to, not only is there going to be an accounting, there's also going to be damages and everything else. And, some accountability in fixing and setting up new policies that are accountable. I mean, for example, if I was to call right now for civil standby, I'd be told that this building, the San Francisco Police Department has no jurisdiction here. I want everything to be corrected. Of course the San Francisco Police Department has jurisdiction here. Not the sheriff who can be the lapdogs for the Department of Public Health. But if they don't come because they've been misled in that capacity, then that violates my civil rights and everything else, which is what's been happening. And the videos are on YouTube.
Are you seeing anyone in the behavioral health section for?
Am I seeing
where are you
anyone where?
getting- Are you seeing anyone for your anxiety?
I told you, I'm seeing a doctor and I've got my prescription for medical marijuana for anxiety and depression, which was first issued to me by Mitchell Katz, the Director of
But
Public
is
Health.
the doctor who you're seeing now, is that a
That's
DPH?
no. It's a doctor that I see, for my prescription for anxiety and depression.
Okay, so if I can try to, if I were to call Castro Mission, and I don't know what exactly our next steps are,
No,
I need to know
I
what it is
understand.
you want. Okay.
I want my health care,
Okay.
and the ability to go in and videotape the receipt of my health care.
One of the issues about videotaping is very threatening for other patients. So one of the issues about videotaping.
Wonderful,
clinical
wonderful,
areas.
wonderful. So since you've made that representation, and I've got the videotaping of people at San Francisco General, what is your solution to that then? Please let me know. Unless, of course, you're only going to use it against me, and when you guys do it, it's not going to be accountable. No, madam. No, we're not going to go down that path. Because if it was, as you're saying, against other patients, then the hospital would not be able to do this either. That is a falsehood, and I've never claimed that I was videotaping other patients. It's for the receipt of my own health care
I
only.
understand.
Do you? Then why did you bring it up in such a fashion?
Because in a clinical waiting room where there are other patients and
There is no
being-
expectation of privacy in a public waiting room. Sorry. But let's continue. Let's continue with all the things that you're throwing out to put a stumbling block, but certainly not to help me. And I want to point that out to the viewers on YouTube. So does that mean that they couldn't, per your allegations, take me into a separate room so that I could get my health care and facilitate access and accommodation under ADA, which is what I'm entitled to? Remember, I still don't have an ADA officer here to speak to about all my ADA right violations.
Would you like to just continue until we can get one for you?
I would like for you to set up my appointment and then get the ADA officer so that we can come back and talk about these issues if you guys would like to be responsible and accountable. But you still haven't told me, if I prove everything, what you can do, what your power and capacity is to enforce it and everything else. Or am I just going to be spinning my wheels here where you guys will take the information but nothing will come of it for me?
That I don't know.
Naturally. Thank you. And your response, ma'am?
This is the office where we will find the answers.
Ah, very, very good. What do you mean by answers? Because I will even question the answers.
Well, very well, that's fine. One of the things we're trying to find out is what the questions are that need to be answered.
Why I haven't had health care for 12 years, why I have an illegal bogus restraining order against me the Department of Public Health gave officers, why I have a signed confession and nobody's come back to me and said, well, Mr. Garza, we understand you have an adjustment disorder. You can't adjust to disorder, so let's explain this disorder to you. Ah, that would be too professional. I understand.
What I understand hearing from you is that you want to have health care, access to health care, and
I also want to understand why I didn't have access to it. There's no certain conditions. These are all allowed under ADA, programmatic access, and the fact that I've already been screwed by the Department of Public Health and I have a settlement agreement to that effect. And they've never come back to explain to me, the person with the adjustment disorder, who can't adjust to disorder, why it was thrown out of federal court in 2003 with Testalion, why it was signed in 2007, and why it's continued. You do understand?
Why what was continued?
The inaction, the in-service. I have not received medical care. You know, not only did they have my case illegally thrown out, they signed a confession, and they've come to a person, and they've never come back to me to explain that the person with the adjustment disorder that they labeled, who cannot adjust to disorder, the fact that they screwed me, and it's a disorder that they've never explained to me. You know, you know, it's known as accountability. Where has the accountability been? You know, and I'm following up on that. I'm following up on the denials, you know, and everything else. I'm continuing to do what's correct and everything else. So here it is. Yes, you may make a copy of it. Sure, please, help yourself. It's also on a website called myownprivateguantanamo.com, which lists all the federal court papers just to show how the system is rigged to fail the patient. Now, can I ask another question? Why is it that I finally have got you people here to help me when I never had this 2.5 years ago?
This is a brand new office. So this office has just started about 2 months ago. So
before you, who handled these kind of situations? Thank you. Your silence is golden.
I would say that the grievances went through the individual institutions. And so the Director of Health has created this centralized office to address grievances and compliance and privacy issues.
Okay. So is it against the law, since we're talking about privacy issues, HIPAA law, for me to video record the receipt of my own health care?
I believe we're right in the middle of creating a policy around that.
No, I didn't ask you about policy. I asked you about the law.
Then I really can't answer that right now.
Oh, and you're in charge of this division. You can't answer that simple question. And now I'm supposed to have faith in you. Thank you for laughing. Thank you. Thank you. The YouTube viewers will be seeing this in addition.
I appreciate that question.
Yes, well, it's the right question.
Well, I'm investigating that, and I'd be...
Oh, right. And the next time we speak, I'll be video recording that too, so that everybody can see what a sham this is going to be. Unless, of course, there will be some fruition, some justice, some damages, some apologies, you know, all the correct things which have not happened to date.
Thank you.
Now, this is an officer. This officer right here was one of the officers who was involved with that bogus restraining order. Would you like to ask him about that, since you are investigating?
I will. We will talk to him.
Well, please,
No,
ask him.
not right now. We won't do that.
Well, of course, naturally. Thanks, folks. This is on video.
So let's just make sure that we're answering the right questions.
And answer them the right way, because, you know, I may agree that you're not answering the questions in the right way.
Right. You have that right. So the question is, how can we get you an appointment for a primary care physician? Does it have to be at Castro Mission?
No, but it has to include my video recording so that I can lay out a baseline of what's
Understood.
happened to me
That's
for all
that's
this
one of
time.
the conditions
Now,
of
another
it.
thing is, I would like to, for it, if you do this for me, for it to be explained to me why it hasn't happened before, when I haven't done anything different. Is it that the law has changed, or is it finally that I'm correct and you guys are being pushed into a corner to have to do the right thing in compliance because it's been out of compliance up to date?
So if we take the first one, trying to see if we can get you into a healthcare provider, it doesn't have to be Castro Mission, but the condition, from what I hear you saying, is that you have to be able to record it during the service.
And I want to also know why it's taken this long to get to that
so
point.
that's a different, so we'll work on that.
Correct.
And then in terms of what's
Accountability.
transpired
Correct.
over, we can certainly investigate that. I don't know that we'll have answers that,
And I'm supposed to accept that.
but
Considering
can-
I have the answers, that it was done illegally and it was done against me, and I want accountability. And without accountability, I, the person with an adjustment disorder,
what's the
and being
what
and,
would-
and going back to the priests that molested me because they're not being accountable.
and what would accountability look like for you?
Well, we can go down the issue one by one. Let's start with the bogus restraining order. Let's start with the signed settlement agreement, in which I was left for dead afterwards, and nobody explained to me. Let's continue to the bogus restraining order that when I went to the DA and wanted to press charges, he told me he didn't care about my legal rights. Let us continue to ask about accountability and what it means to me.
Some of the questions that you are asking, this office really would not be able to answer.
Oh,
for
I
you.
understand compartmentalized responsibility about how things are parsed out so that they fail, so that when you put it all together, there's no solution. I understand that. I don't accept it. That's not my problem. You know, if it's your office that fails, then we'll go to the adjoining office that was helping you to fail, become accountable too.
Have you been to any of those offices?
Oh, I've been to
yet?
the sheriff's office. I've been to the San Francisco Police Department. Yes, and all those videos are on YouTube also. I've been to licensing and certification when, you know, I was illegally denied, and they, of course, came back and told me it was unsubstantiated, even though I had videos of it happening. Once again, to prove how it's set to fail and be unaccountable. Not my problem.
So can we take the first request to
Yes.
try to get you a healthcare provider?
Yes, please.
And then
Pretty please.
promise that we will continue the conversation about the other ones to the best that we can. And I think that what
Well, I don't know what that means. Continue the conversation on the other ones to the best that you can. If the best that you can is to throw me into a failing methodology, that's unacceptable. I can't agree to that. If the best that you can is to be accountable and to make changes so that it doesn't happen to somebody else the way it's been happening to me for years, you know, then maybe we can talk. But just to, you know, fluff it down the road, I've got a signed confession from 2007 that nobody's responded to yet.
well,
8 years later.
the purpose of this office is to hear what needs to be changed, either through policy or through practice or through whatever, to better serve.
And I'll believe that when I see it.
And that, as you probably can tell, is a long process. But what?
Oh, you mean like CMS's process where I wrote them about quality management, about this signed confession, and I've never gotten a response? You mean like me coming over here and trying to follow up on all the denials and getting the bogus restraining order against me 2 or 3 years ago when I started videotaping? Yes, I know it's a long process. I also know that, you know, you can go through this process and do everything right, and right might not come out of it. So I still don't know what you mean by all that, because I'm here to make sure that right comes of everything, because, you know, it's like I said, I have the adjustment disorder. I'm a well-adjusted individual in a maladjusted society that cannot adjust to disorder. And all I've seen so far is nothing but disorder, because it's not I who've done anything wrong. Pardon me?
How can we get a hold of you
You have all that information. Nothing has changed.
in the records?
Correct.
Before?
Correct. Nothing has changed. And I'll turn this off and I'll write down all the information for you
Okay.
too. I just don't want it to be out there, you know, that kind of thing. So are we pretty much done in the next thing I get from you? And mind you, if I can't video record, I don't want a phone call, so I'm not going to give you my phone number. I don't want there to be a he said, she said thing. Email me so we have a written trail.
Okay.
Not a problem. All right, so let me turn this off and I'll give you what you need and we're done pretty much. Is that it then?
Yes.
And when will I be contacted for this, you know, health care?
I would say we would know in the next 2 days, right?
Wonderful. And now, you know, I don't know about Obamacare. You know, I'm asking about that. And I'm also asking for a social worker to understand why all this has happened to me, you know, in other areas that I
So
need help with.
Are you working with any other advocates? Anyone in your case, your situation here?
Justice is for the rich, madam. I'm not rich. So that's the answer. I've done everything, as best I can against the world, against all odds. And mind you, I have a settlement agreement, the only one of its kind that admits fault and guilt for having broken federal law. And I'm still the innocent, vindicated victim who's left for dead. And it continued. It just continued. You guys continued to break the law and not be accountable. Just like my false arrest on 224, right here, for seeking health care. It's on YouTube.